Welcome back to Sapper Woodworking. Today's video is going to be less about woodworking and more about cooking. The number one question that I get asked is what should I put on my cutting board and or wooden kitchen products to protect them and preserve the wood as long as possible? Well, before I answer that question, I think it's important to know why you should protect your wooden cutting boards and implements that are used in the kitchen. So we're talking a mixing spoon or the wooden handle to a knife, or of course your cutting and charcuterie boards that are used in your kitchen. Those products are in an environment that they're subject to increases in moisture when they're washed, and they're subject to decreases in moisture when they're sitting out on top of the counter. And your cutting boards and wooden products are not unlike that dried up sponge that you're going to have in your sink. If you take that sponge and soak that in water, the sponge is going to expand because it's going to pick up moisture dipped in the sink. That exact same thing is happening with your wood products. It'll pick up moisture when it's getting washed, and it'll let that moisture evaporate out when it dries out. And that wood's going to expand and contract over time. And it doesn't matter the quality of the wood used in your products. It doesn't matter how well they're constructed or how good the glue was used. That wood product will eventually expand, contract, crack, and fail if it's not properly sealed on a routine basis. So that's why all of the products that leave the Sapper Woodworking shop are sealed up with a blended product to help protect and preserve. That product will eventually get washed off with usage, and it should be reapplied as necessary. So back to the original question, what do we recommend that we put on our products? Well, the simplest thing that you can do is to go out to your local big box retailer, buy a commercially available product. This particular one is pretty popular. It's found at almost all the big box retailers. It's about $10 for a 12-ounce jar, which is about 85 cents an ounce. The concoction that I make and make myself comes out to somewhere around 20 to 25 cents an ounce, considerably cheaper, and I believe it works just as well. The most convenient and simplest thing to do is just to go buy commercially available mineral oil. This is about $2 to me available locally, and put that directly on your board. It will help seal the board, keep moisture out of it, but it's not the best thing that you can do to protect your products. So over the years, I've developed just kind of my own little mixture. I ended up having some ball jars around the house that happen to have metric only hash marks on them. So I've figured out that if I put, my formula is 700 milliliters of mineral oil straight out of the bottle, mixed along with about 5 ounces of organic Indiana beeswax. And coincidentally, the last time I ordered beeswax, it happened to have come in these sticks, which are almost exactly 5 ounces. I used to get these big bricks of beeswax where I have to chip off and measure out on a scale that 5 ounces. Now I just mix directly in this tube. So one thing to be aware of is you want to use mineral oil. This is FDA food safe for contact with food. You do not want to use something like a vegetable oil. That will eventually go rancid and your board will likely mold. You don't want to use corn oil. That same thing will happen. I've had some friends use walnut oil on their boards. It's a bit more expensive than the mineral oil, and you do have to worry about potential contact with someone who has food allergies, that the walnut oil could be a problem if you have a food or a nut allergy. So the simplest thing is just to use mineral oil and a stick of beeswax, and I take that and put that in my rather simple double boiler. I just have a hot plate, an old saucepan. I'll fill that with water and put my jars directly in the hot plate and melt in the beeswax directly into the mineral oil, and then turn off the hot plate, let it cool overnight, and I have my product. It turns out to be roughly the consistency of about an applesauce. It's a little bit thicker than that. And you can, of course, the formula is not exact. You can play around with adding a little bit more beeswax that will offer a little bit more waxy protection, or decreasing the percentage of beeswax, which will allow a higher percentage of mineral oil, which would end up with your mixture soaking deeper into the wood. So let's get on with the heating up the hot plate, and we'll take you through that process. So of course my hot plate decided to quit working, so I moved my boil inside the house, and here we have about a 15-second time lapse that shows the wax sticks melting into the oil. Once the wax is completely melted into the oil, I just turn off the heat and let it sit and cool, and over the course of maybe an hour it started to congeal, and you can see it slowly turning from that golden color to more of a lighter color as the mixture hardens up. All right, we're back. We've let our brewed up concoction of about 700 milliliters of mineral oil and approximately 5 ounces of beeswax. That's cooled off now, and it turns out to be kind of a consistency of a little bit thicker than applesauce. And it's really simple to use. I'm just gonna take some of that, put it on a paper towel or a cloth, and I'm just going to wipe it onto my board. And this will help seal, protect, nourish the wood. This particular cutting board that I'm sealing here is at least 20 years old, and it does regularly get used around the house. So we'll just wipe that on, get a nice liberal coat, let that soak anywhere from a couple of hours to overnight. And wipe off the excess, and you've got yourself a perfectly seasoned cutting board for a fraction of the cost of a commercial product. So I hope you all like the video. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing by clicking the red subscribe button. Hit the bell to let us know you like the video, and post a comment if you have any questions. And you'll get notified when we post additional videos. Appreciate it. Thanks. And have a wonderful time treating your boards. Pan and the pot, heat it up,